how do you parse out where marginalization comes into play? As we were just talking about, there is workplace hazing and bad behavior that's kind of universal, unfortunately, across many workplaces. What happens? How do you recognize when it tips over from being that to being more targeted, to being specific to some form of marginalization instead of maybe the broader form of workplace harassment or teasing or hazing or any other word you might apply to it?
I mean, a lot of times I think duration is the key there, right? Because I mean, I've been in situations where when I worked at Lifehacker, Gawker Media was a very kind of inclusive, inclusive maybe isn't the right word, but we all kind of had our eyes on each other. There was a real camaraderie there. And we teased the heck out of each other. You know, we beat each other up on a regular basis. We still do it on Twitter. And but there's a certain place where, one, that falls by the wayside when it's time to get down to business. And when the teasing stops and the work starts and everyone is involved, then you know that, okay, this isn't about me. This is about culture. And then beyond that, even if it doesn't stop, like I was saying, we still do that to each other on Twitter. I mean, when it is part of the culture and it kind of just becomes normalized, it can do two things. It can either be part of a toxic workplace environment, or it can just be part of that kind of, camaraderie that I was talking about before, where you do something and you kind of rattle somebody's cage a little bit, but you still respect them. You still look to them for their expertise, their guidance, their skills. So that's kind of how you can tell the difference between it being really bad-natured and being kind of good-natured in the long run.
Yes. And I thought, your description of gaslighting in the book, I thought was really, really helpful. And, it seems like it gets to that question of impact versus intent that you talked about before. How do you approach conversations with somebody? Because you went into some detail that you have to be really careful about how you approach that question of almost accusing somebody of marginalizing you. What are the right ways to approach those types of situations so you don't get that defensive response of either somebody saying, no, you misunderstood my intention, it's on you, or as you said, they have some form of plausible deniability and just evade the accusation and don't deal with it at all?
Yeah, I mean, some people are going to do that no matter what you do. I think that it's natural for most of us to react to being confronted with something potentially negative or our own behavior that is potentially negative with defensiveness. Because nobody wants to be labeled first of all, no one wants to be labeled racist, sexist, homophobic, or whatever. That's fine. It's natural to not want those labels that society has on a broad level said that is bad and makes you a bad person. But if you disassociate the bad person from it, like I was saying a second ago, like what happened was bad. I'm not saying you were bad for doing it. I'm not saying you're a bad person, but I just want to talk specifically about this action. This action caused harm to me in this way. Could you change the action? Could you stop the action? And by keeping things laser focused on the person's behavior, then you get a way to talk about exactly what's going on without bringing value judgments into it or without bringing personality judgments into it. And I think that that's really important. And it's an important skill for people to learn in general, regardless, because it is possible for people who are different to engage with each other on that personal level without necessarily bringing all the social baggage in. And sometimes you can't avoid it. And sometimes you have to present the fact that like, hey, there is social baggage here that plays a role in this that we need to talk about. But at the end of the day, it's not you're a bad person for doing a thing. It's that this thing hurt me. And I know you don't want to hurt me, right? And that generally brings people around a little bit more. Appealing to their empathy helps a lot.
Thanks for watching this video clip of the Speak Good podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, please check out our full conversations on your favorite podcast directory. We've spoken with everyone from the Secretary of the Smithsonian Institution about what it was like to be the founding director of the National Museum of African American History and Culture, to a member of Congress who describes his day job as being in the wrestling ring, to an expert storyteller who helps us understand how we can use stories to help us achieve our business goals. Thanks for watching.